How much would you pay for a piece of wedding cake? I guess it depends on who the bride and groom is. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website. You can learn about us there, including our companion podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, which drops in audio form on Tuesdays. And if you're a fan of the Focus Group, you can watch video of our show on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you only listen to the audio, don't worry. The show drops into your feed on Saturday, just like it used to do when we were live at SiriusXM Satellite Radio back in the day. Welcome to the week, Mr. Bennett.
Well, Mr. Nash, is that shirt you have on a green and blue check?
It's blue and gray.
Gray, because it looks like the color of my shirt almost, at least on my monitor anyway. So it almost looks like we planned this little outfit. Like the Osmonds, when everything would be just a little bit different. The Osmonds outfits, or the Bradys, they would all have a theme, but something would have a stripe and something would have a polka dot. Or
I'm not sure we planned our outfits, but I do like the complementary colors.
Do you? Okay. I was a little concerned about wearing this, although we don't get a lot of video eyeballs on us, but this is kind of pastel-y. I thought probably not very fallish.
I don't know. You usually wear dark. I think it looks good.
Yeah,
I've
something
got a
different.
Total thing that you're going to get a kick out of. So I had this song in my head over the weekend. It was Spandau Ballet.
Oh, God.
And I went to YouTube and I found the song. And then I just began this little journey. And I typed in Go West. And I watched the video for We Close Our Eyes. And then I dropped in, for some reason, I remembered a band called Johnny Hates Jazz.
Yeah.
Played a song of theirs. And then what was this one? Oh, Alphaville, Forever Young. And the Romantics, Talking in Your Sleep. You know, they're all wearing their leather jackets with the hair
This
jacked
is a little
up.
bit of John Nash's version of yacht rock. I mean, it's a little softy new wave. New wave, the softer side of new wave.
And then
John Nash, your DJ. Maybe DJ James Anthony will get you over on Sirius XM. You know, hits of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020s.
This one will get you. Then I landed on Dan Hartman. I Can Dream About You. I can dream about you.
This is your yacht rock version, John. This is something.
Well, so
Johnny
then,
Hates Jazz, Spandau Ballet.
So then what I did is I went downstairs and I turned on the Apple TV and I went to YouTube and I picked a song like it might have been Grace Jones or something. And then I let YouTube continue to drop in after every video that played. It was, Bob and I had 2 or 3 hours of nonstop laughter and just fond memories because, you know, Pat Benatar, Love is a Battlefield. The B-52s came on several times. You know, it was like a romp down 80s lane. And then I on my laptop, I looked at one of the songs and I saw this woman had posted. She goes, "Please, someone invent a time machine to take me back to the best damn music of my life in the 80s." Almost 3 hours, though, of watching video and letting YouTube do it automatically, like populate all the stuff. And it was...
Yeah, I have a bunch of playlists. I should send you one. I have a bunch that I've saved, that I've curated myself, that I put on. Again, in the summer, if we have people in the TV, I run it. But do you have Amazon Music?
Yes.
Because they'll do the same thing. You can pick, do your own little playlist and then just leave it, and it just populates. And it's great because it's things that you might have forgot about, or it goes deeper into the artist. So a lot of times I'll find myself hearing something, and then I run and look to see what it is, and write it down and add it to a playlist later on, because it does do a good job of picking out things.
Here's a classic. So at one point, I hear this music starting, and I'm like, it can't possibly be. And it was that song, I'm on a Mexican radio. And then right after that, it was video.
Killed the radio star.
And
probably I'm turning Japanese. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Dun, 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 dun,
didn't hear that one, but Wang Chung came up a couple times. Madness. The Specials, Haircut 100. I mean, and I was like, and then a couple Talking Heads. And so, Bob, we were just as I said, we ate dinner and let the thing, and ads popped in now and then because it's obviously YouTube.
Right.
But I'll have to try it on Amazon Music. But it was delightful, and every time we saw a video start, Bob goes, "Oh, hello, this is the record company calling. You have $50 for your video."
Yeah. I mean, some of them are so I mean, I think we could do better now with the phone. It's like cut out paper, construction paper, and things are moving.
And
some of them
who
are
had
really
money, though?
primitive.
I think one of the videos we saw was The Look of Love from ABC's The Lexicon of Love, and that was a very opulent production. And so you knew what bands were doing well by who had the money, and then
Well, Madonna.
Vogue came on at one point. It was actually a recording of a stage act where all the models are on the stage doing their thing. And then some bands their songs were like right before the MTV took off. So all you ever had was like a video recording of someone playing like an American Bandstand or whatever the equivalent was. It was quite a change from just watching regular TV. It was actually kind of fun, and it made us both smile a great deal. So that was my Saturday night.
Things are great guns over there Saturday night. That's big doings.
Yeah, she needs chopped meat and a baked potato.
That takes planning. I should cook for Mother. Like baked potato and chopped meat, but that takes planning. I've got a calendar, but we have clocks. They don't work.
What was the name of the? They were going to cut back something and have a vegetable garden.
The privet.
The privet was going to get
Mother
cut
doesn't
back.
mind if you cut down the privet if we're all living next year. Maybe a vegetable
We're all
garden
alive.
living next. Mother
For
doesn't
those
care.
who need to know, we are deep into the rabbit hole of Grey Gardens, one of our favorite films of all time.
Somebody
So
did
much truth, right?
Somebody posted something on, I think it was the TikTok. I was going to put it on our Facebook page, but she did in the second movie, The Beals of Grey Gardens.
Yeah.
She does a grapevine report where she's up in the house and she's talking through all the vines over the windows that have grown over the vines. She goes, "Time for my grapevine report. The Republicans are a nasty party. They're the party of the wealthy." And she's screaming out the window. And, and someone said she could have done that this last week.
I mean, it would have been topical. It would have been totally topical.
If you
right?
want your taxes raised, vote Republican. And she's yelling out the window. I'll have to find the clip and post it to our Facebook page because it is funny.
God.
She's a smart nut, right? I mean, she's I don't know what the other way to put it, but
Very smart. Yeah. No, that's a good. So lots of walks down memory lanes. But moving on, what caught your eye, sir?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So I was poking around and this had popped up, and it's regarding sticker shock. And we all know with inflation, people are talking about sticker shock and all the other things that go with it, right? So this particular article, though, was talking about purchasing a car. And you and I have talked in a couple of episodes back where a lot of automobile manufacturers have actually stopped making passenger cars.
Yeah.
I think Ford only makes one passenger car now. It's the Mustang. It's two-door. Chrysler, they're only making one. Subaru has stopped making passenger cars after this year, after the legacy's going away in the Impreza. And everybody's moving to SUVs and or larger cars. And they said it's because people either want the space, the size, or all the features that they didn't know that they wanted. So do you want to take a guess as to what, and this is why I picked the article, what do you think the average price of a car is now? If you went to go buy a new car right now, what would you expect to pay in October? This is according to third-party Edmunds.
I want to say 32,000.
You'd be way off.
Higher than that?
So the average price of a car right now, last month, was $47,612.
Wow.
And they said the jump is $10,000 more than October 2019, which was the start of the pandemic. And they were initially saying that prices were rising during the pandemic because there were supply chain issues. And then they said that it was difficult to get some parts, so they were only making certain types of vehicles, and they wanted to only make vehicles where they could make more money on them. And obviously those were the vehicles that were SUVs or more expensive. And they said the other thing is people now wanted, what they said is they now wanted features that they didn't necessarily know they wanted until they had them. Adaptive cruise control, you and I have talked about, blind spot warning systems, automatic braking. They said it'd be very difficult for you right now to find a $30,000 new car from an American automaker.
Wow.
It just doesn't exist. And they said, so the market is totally abandoned the below, what they're saying, below $35,000 price point. They're also blaming electric vehicles and hybrids because those are more expensive than traditional gas-only cars. They said in the big three, so that's General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, which we used to know as Chrysler, the average price for a GM car right now, or a GM product, is $50,922, $54,000 at Stellantis, and $55,000 plus at Ford. And they said the average price for a car loan, or the car loan interest rate's about 7%. And so your average monthly car payment, so this is across all vehicles, foreign and domestic. You want to guess what the average monthly car payment is?
For something?
$742.
$742? I don't pay that much a month for the car.
Yeah, but you didn't. How old's your car?
It's almost 3 years.
Right. So that's why mine too. So but now, if you were going to go buy that car, looking at interest rates and lease rates and everything else, you're going to, if you can find that car. That's the other thing. You might have that model, but it might have so much other stuff on it that you don't necessarily want. They do say, though, that the foreign car makers are a little better than the domestics, but all car brands are affected by the supply chain and also the cost of parts, because there's nothing made in America that's 100% American. There used to be, when I worked at Subaru, the big joke was the most American-made car was the Honda Accord. That actually had the most American parts in it of any car. So they went through the list of brands and the average price, and we did the big three. The overall industry, so this is all car brands, the average cost of the cars we noted is $47,500. Toyota, $44,600. Honda, $38,400. The least expensive of the big car brands is Nissan at $35,600. They still have some cars in their fleet. But I thought this was, I know a couple of people out looking for cars and they couldn't believe how expensive they were. So there's limited inventory still and limited options. If you want to get a passenger car or something more sedan-like, it's going to be tough to find it.
This is a prime example to me of the reality of economics versus the bloviating on the campaign trail. Mm-hmm. So how are you going to lower the prices on certain things for Americans when it's a whole interconnected thing, and basically the decision the auto industry made 2 or 3 years ago is showing up now? You and I talked about the loss of station wagons, sedans, right? Affordable cars. How are you going to correct that?
Well, and they did mention this. They said that even though the average price right now is hitting $50,000, prices are expected to go even higher if President-elect Trump follows through in his threat to impose tariffs. They said it will actually affect all cars in the auto sector, so it will go up even higher. He made the stupid-ass comment to I remember I heard him on the campaign trail when he talked to Angela Merkel when she was still the Chancellor of Germany. How come there were no Chevys in Germany? Well, first of all, they didn't sell them.
Yeah.
They stopped selling them, and they were under the Opel brand or the Vauxhall brand. So, he once again running his mouth about something he's really not aware of. But so we'll see what happens. So it's making me keep my car, or certainly going to get a certified pre-owned, right?
My mom's husband just did that. I thought he had gotten a new car, but it was certified pre-owned, and it's because of this. It's exactly because of this. It's
the price. Yeah.
Yeah, and again,
it's a lot of money.
It's a huge amount of money, and in some cases when you quoted that monthly cost,
$742,
that could be like a second rent for people, right?
Oh,
depending
easily.
on where you live.
Yeah. Richard was out looking at a car, and it was pushing $900, and I told him he was crazy.
$900 a month. Wow. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, caught my eye for me, couldn't be any different. I did tease it at the start of the show, and it has to do with a piece of wedding cake that just went on the auction block.
Is this a Seinfeld episode?
Yeah, I did this specifically for you because of Jay Peterman had a piece of cake in his office that Elaine ate. And guess that piece of cake was from the Duke of Windsor, right?
Yeah, and Wallace Simpson.
Wallace Simpson. Well, guess what? The piece of cake I'm referring to is from Queen Elizabeth II.
No way.
Yeah. So
what is that? Is that the cake? If you're watching the video, is that the piece of cake?
That's the cake. So I will describe this to you. So it says here, 77-year-old slice of Queen Elizabeth II's wedding cake sells for $2,800. The slice of cake was packaged in a box bearing then Princess Elizabeth's silver insignia and included a printed letter from the bride and a decorative doily. The piece of cake had been given to Marion Polson, housekeeper at Hollywood House in Edinburgh, Scotland, as a gift from the royal couple. So they must have had the cake and cut it up and put it in packaging. Auction house Riemann Dancy announced the piece of cake, part of a 500-pound baked dessert served at the 500-pound baked dessert served at the November 20th, 1947 wedding, was auctioned for $2,831. And that's the extent of it. Someone bought a piece of cake. And the reason this caught my eyes, Tim already mentioned it, was there's a great episode of Seinfeld where Elaine's in her boss, Jay Peterman's office, and there's a piece of cake. And I think it's in a refrigerator or something. And it turns out it was the Duke of Windsor's cake. She eats it. Then she tries to replace it with another piece of cake to not get
an
upset, right?
Yeah, an Entenmann's. He brought in a cake expert to make sure that he didn't get ripped off at the auction.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been it. They must have based that on a true story, I'm guessing, right? Because this is funny here that this pops up. I can't imagine spending. What would you do with that if you bought it for 20? I guess that's pissing your money away.
All you can do with this is say that you have a piece of wedding cake from Queen Elizabeth II's wedding to Prince Philip.
Would you be tempted to try it? It looks like it's chocolate, John. Or
or
is it mold?
I don't know how well preserved is this thing? It's so hard to say, right? The picture was a little blown out, but and it doesn't look big. So you see that and if you're watching on the video, the picture has like what looks like the back of a ballpoint pen lifting up the golden doily. So this must be a tiny piece. They must have taken a 500-pound cake, right? They must have taken that and sliced it into all these little pieces, put them in these boxes with the doily. These were actually giveaway things, right?
I guess so. Yeah, it's. I know people have put cake in. Somebody had their cake in the freezer, in their 10-year anniversary. They
For
took
how
it
long?
out.
Yeah.
Like 10 years. It wasn't good when you had served it the first time. I think 10 years.
What makes you think
have you ever had good wedding cake?
Yeah,
I can't remember one.
My niece Catherine's wedding cake was delicious. It wasn't it was a good cake. But often though you have these cakes with the heavy buttercream frosting and they're really super sweet and the cake might be dry. It depends on the size.
Everyone's
of the
half in the bag by the time they usually serve the cake, and it just sits on the table. Let's get this over with. Yeah, let's get this over with.
It's another formality of the wedding. Yeah. So there you go. We have overpriced automobiles in the U.S., or the current cost of cars is off the roof or off the charts, and we have a piece of cake that sold for $2,800 in London from 1947. Happens to be Queen Elizabeth II's. There you go. That's caught your eye, folks.
Yeah.
Moving on here, Deep Discount is a big partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would welcome you to, or invite you actually, to go to our site, focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, and start your shopping experience away. Great partner. They have tons of things at their website besides movies and TV shows. There's games and movies and books and albums, actually vinyl albums. They do have going on right now a site-wide sale. It's one of our favorite sales because it's like free range or on the whole thing. And so, Mr. Bennett, what did you pick this week from Deep Discount?
So I know you saw the name. Did you recognize the movie?
Did I recognize?
Did you recognize the movie I picked this week?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I know, the actor in this movie is also one of my favorite. William Powell is actually in one of my favorite movies called My Man Godfrey. And he was in a series of these movies, The Thin Man. So go ahead.
Yeah. So what I did is I went and I did a search of the most overlooked holiday movies, Christmas movies. And so this list came up. So other than the usual suspects that everybody watches around the holidays or Christmas time, about 30 movies popped up, and this one was one of the top 3 on the list as a holiday movie that you should add to your repertoire. It came out in 1934, The Thin Man. As John mentioned, William Powell, Myrna Loy, Maureen O'Sullivan, Nat Pendleton, and I just thought the description was great. It comes in either Blu-ray or DVD, and both of them you can get for under $20. But just hearing the description that was written, I thought would make you want to watch it. It says, Nick and Nora Charles cordially invite you to bring your alibi to The Thin Man, the jaunty whodunit that made William Powell and Myrna Loy the champagne elite of sleuthing, bantering in the boudoir, enjoying walks with their beloved dog Asta, or matching each other highball to highball. And for clue to clue, they combined screwball romance with mystery. The resulting triumph nabbed the movie 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. It also spawned 5 sequels. It only took them 12 days to film.
Think about that for a second. 12 days.
12 days
to
and
make a movie
cost
like that,
$190,000, but came out in 1934. As I said, it's only 91 minutes. That's as long as a movie should be, if not shorter, in my opinion. But yeah, and they said this is one of those that if you haven't seen it, or if you're looking for something different instead of the usual suspects for holiday films, this would be one to add to your collection.
It's a fun film, and because of the time it's made, and Myrna Loy and William Powell are, I call it rat-a-tat-tat, like the back and forth with the dialogue and the zingers. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie to watch. It's an excellent pick, Tim. For next week, I have a film that you probably never heard of, and I did the same thing you did. I was like, overlooked Christmas films. Not overlooked, but people just don't remember them as being holiday. I picked something that caught my eye at the site because I wasn't sure what it was at first. So the movie's called The Invasion, and it stars Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. And it's basically a remake of the famous movie, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was made in the 40s or 50s. And then there was a remake with Donald Sutherland and Leonard Nimoy in the 70s and 80s. And then this came along. So the Body Snatchers are at it again. It's a modern-day interpretation, the 4th, of Jack Finney's popular sci-fi novel. This chill-packed incarnation finds a Washington, D.C. psychiatrist, Nicole Kidman, coming to the terrifying truth about the extraterrestrial epidemic sweeping the globe, just as her own son becomes infected. Daniel Craig stars, along with Jeffrey Wright, Jeremy Northam. It's about 99 minutes. Tim, we both picked movies that were 99 minutes, or 90, because that's your hour and a half is your sweet spot, right?
Yeah, too long for Vegas shows, long enough for a home movie. Yeah.
Okay, so I picked Invasion, available on 4K Ultra HD, and I had not seen it. It came out in I want to say 2000 and was it 2007 or 17? I can't,
2007.
2007, yeah. So I don't know why it missed me, but I want to see their interpretation of everybody knows The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And we do have a new release this week. It's called Beetlejuice. You might remember when it came out, everybody was going Beetlejuice crazy. The first one aired a great deal on TV when this was hitting the theaters. Got great reviews, and I haven't seen it, but I'd like to see it, because if you watch the first one again, you realize how well that was done. The description is, Beetlejuice is back after an unexpected family tragedy. 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter, Astrid, discovers the mysterious model of the town in the attic, and the portal to the afterlife is accidentally opened. With trouble brewing in both realms, it's only a matter of time until someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, and the mischievous demon returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. That would be Michael Keaton starring as Beetlejuice. And there's a little fact about him in the first movie. I don't know if they let him do this in the second one, but in the first, a lot of Beetlejuice's lines were ad-libbed, or he would just start going crazy, and they were like, okay, good, cut. That's. But it wasn't necessarily scripted like that. So there you go.
Jeez.
Beetlejuice.
And the third one will be what? Beetlejuice. Well,
I guess so. They could do that, right?
Yeah. So, hey, as John mentioned, thanks to our friends at Deep Discount, they've got a site-wide sale going on right now. It's a great time to start your holiday and gift shopping. We have our picks. I picked The Thin Man, which came out in 1934 as an overlooked holiday classic. John picked The Invasion, and the new release this week is Beetlejuice. So be sure, again, to head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo. We get credit for that, and we appreciate your support of Deep Discount, and we appreciate their support of us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have a business birthday and a shop talk, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website. You can find out all about us there, including TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast. But without further ado, Mr. Bennett, we have a business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So born today, November 20th in 1838, is William Painter. He died July 15th, 1906, at the age of 67. He was an American mechanical engineer and inventor and founder of Crown Holdings, which is a Fortune 500 company. And I actually used to call on them as my first job when I worked for LTV.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
They were
based in Pennsylvania. They're in Yardley, Pennsylvania. They make lots of cans and
you were selling steel.
Steel cans. Tell you about it. So, but he most notably invented the Crown Cork bottle cap. And so then if he invented the bottle cap, he also invented the bottle opener. So he was born, as I said, in Montgomery, Maryland. He moved to Baltimore, and he worked as a foreman in a machine shop. And his job at the time was to manufacture a universal neck for all glass bottles. Because at that time, people had different size bottles, different size openings for pouring. And a lot of the manufacturers thought it would be best if there was some universal size for all caps on bottles. The problem was, although bottled carbonated beverages were popular in the 1880s, there was a constant problem with stoppers and bottle caps. They lacked reliability. They would often not seal properly, causing liquids to spill, and then there would also be gas leaks for the carbonated drinks. So he started a company which he called Crown Cork and Seal, and in Baltimore in 1892. Eventually moved it up to Philadelphia, but so he invented the bottle cap, which were called Crown caps, the pry-off kind, and the twist-offs, which are still used today, 132 years later. The company is still in business. As I said, based in Yardley, Pennsylvania now. They had revenues of $12 billion in 2023. They employ about 34,000 people. They have 192 plants in 39 countries. And they claim to manufacture 1 out of every 5 beverage cans used in the world and 1 out of every 3 food cans used in North America and Europe. He was inducted into the National Hall of Fame in 2006, and he has 85 other inventions that he had patented besides the bottle cap and bottle opener. He also created a machine for crowning the bottles, which is putting the cap on, I guess, a paper folding machine, a safety injection seat for passenger trains. I'm not so sure we use that now, do we? A passenger train, if you hit the button, you pop out. And also a machine for detecting counterfeit currency.
That would be useful. Yeah.
Right. But the passenger train ejection seat, to me, I thought was interesting. Imagine you and I going up Amtrak and hitting that button. Boom. Let me out here in Trenton.
You'd be killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So happy birthday, William Painter. Not a lot written about him. Not a lot about any personal history
Seriously?
or anything.
Something
I looked everywhere. and very little, even on Wikipedia, very little written about them.
Something as major as the bottle cap and the cap opener.
And the opener.
Well, but Tim, the fact that the company stands today did what was it, $12 billion in sales?
Yeah, revenue $12 billion in 2023. Yeah,
says a lot, right?
Tells you all you need to know, right?
But I wonder if family retained it, or what an interesting one, right?
It was an interesting company. I called on them and Campbell's Soup, the big canning in Jersey. And, again, a great job to have as somebody probably our age, probably a 22, 23-year-old, me wandering in there was probably not the smartest use of talent. Either way, I was talking to these purchasing people about buying tons and tons of steel. And I'd be sitting in there in these purchasing departments with all these older, distinguished guys from U.S. Steel and other places, and here comes this young kid. I knew nothing about steel, nor did I care.
But you got the gig.
Got the gig, got a car. Didn't stay long. So that's
all right. We do have a shop talk for you today, folks, and the topic is this. This TikTok trend could be detrimental to your career, says job coach of 15 years. It's not just a TikTok trend, by the way. What they're talking about, I've seen pop up on a number of different blogs, and it was even a recommendation given by a career coach to people that were being laid off from a company. That was one of their recommendations. Here's what you should do, to get a job.
Didn't your sister say it too? Didn't your sister?
Oh, I've heard it from a bunch of people, and I bet everybody who's listening, we tell you what this is, what's going on, you'll get it too. So what's people started to do a while ago when they realized that a lot of resumes and cover letters, if not all of them, go through some type of screening system, probably looking for keywords, and they probably reject a whole bunch before a human being looks at something. And the trend has been for you, they call it white fonting. It's the act of copying the text of a job description and pasting it onto your resume in small white font and hiding it in the hopes of beating the ATS system. So if it's built into your resume in Word, for example, you make it 6-point type and it's white and you hide it behind something else or it's just on the page, the system will in fact interpret and read it. What this woman, Jennifer Liu, says in this article that appeared on CNBC is that this is detrimental to you in the long run because it's causing professionals to do something that can be really detrimental to their professional reputation. If somehow a hiring team picks it up, now your reputation, your qualifications, the work that you've been able to do, your entire job is called into question. I call foul on that because that means you actually got through the system to a human being who's actually looking at your resume. But I digress, and we'll continue the conversation because I think this whole hiring thing nowadays is a nightmare, and this is just a hack that people are using to get to human beings and their eyeballs. But according to this woman, and she's probably right, it's if you make it that far and they discover that you just put the job description in white type and 6-point type on your resume, then they might pass you over or look at another candidate. But what did you think of this?
I'm kind of with you because I've heard about the white fonting as well. And so then I looked a little more and there was an HR woman, she was all tuned up about it, saying that this tracking software they have, while it tracks applicants, it just pulls out text. Mm-hmm. But if it's doing that, I think it's doing exactly what you said, right? So it's pulling out text that would probably look for. She says, or this HR person, her name is Shargi, was the last name. She says this white fonting sounds appealing, but that's not how it works. She said that if you submit a resume, these are used as tracking systems. The system is not a decision-making system. She hasn't heard of many tracking systems that will actually rank resumes based on keywords, but it's exactly what you said. Somebody's now looking at it because it did pull it out. So it's pulling out something, right? Yeah. So she said where you get caught up, though, is she said it just pulls the text. So it takes all formatting and everything out. And this is where the HR people then will call BS because they will then see the job description or something embedded, because when it pulls the text, it will be embedded in the resume.
Correct. And
then they will say, oh, so this is how you got pulled. So it's exactly what you said. It's getting pulled for some reason, right? So It made no sense to me that, so you game the system. So then she said, well, perhaps your resume is not strong enough. Maybe you should write your resume so that it does put keywords in there and it gets pulled on its own merit. And then at the end of the day, it goes back to what you and I have always said all along. actually networking, and if you know somebody, a human contact, you probably have a better chance of getting to the head of the line than just mass. What do they call it? Rage applying
Yeah.
to jobs. It is so frustrating. I have friends, as you do, particularly middle-aged people that may have been in the mid of their career for whatever reason, downsizing, corporate shift, change of culture. It is so difficult to try to get to speak with somebody or have somebody pay attention to who you are. I had one person, she said she'd gone through 3 interviews with a computer on a like a PowerPoint. And it was all gauging whether, I guess AI looks to see whether you're looking at the camera or what your manner is. But no, who the hell wants to talk to a PowerPoint?
You know, I talked to my cousin Rachel at my cousin Nate's wedding back in the summer, and she's now a store manager for Apple. She used to be at Target for many, many years on the, I think on the inventory and supply side. And I said to her, "Hey, how do you get a job like being like an Apple genius or someone who's on the floor helping people out?" And Bob was listening, and Bob was like, "Oh, John would be perfect for this." And she laughed and she said, "Well, the first thing you don't do is don't bother applying to anything they put up online." Counterintuitive, right? Like, okay, so and the why of that is that she said the geniuses in the long-term staff come from holiday staffing. She said, so if you get in the door for a holiday gig, you know, and that's usually now till end of January,
Right.
and you perform well, they'll invite you to continue. And they pay like $48 an hour or something like that.
Are you
It's not
kidding
bad.
me?
No, it's pretty high. You could do
That's-
fairly well there, but you have to be willing to be in different stores and a bunch of stuff. So, and I said, well, how do you do the holiday hiring thing? Because if you wanted to do part-time work for actors, for people in voiceover, like a whole range of people would benefit from possibly being in an Apple store. And she said, well, then you have to go online and apply. And I just laughed. And I said, I may email you later if I want to try this as an experiment and have her contact the Apple store in New York and say, hey, we got someone for you. But again, when
if you work 40 hours a week, John, that's like $100,000.
But here's the other thing she told me, they don't do that.
You don't do
purposely
40
keep
hours.
you at part-time hours so that you can barely qualify for some of the benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, they don't want to pay health care.
And then I think what happens is when you move up the ladder, you move from hourly to salary, which salaried would be a different thing entirely. But you're talking to someone, who you know really well, like my cousin, and she's great. And she's like, oh, don't apply online. Like, so this TikTok thing we're talking about, this white fonting where you take a job description, it's just one little trick that people are desperately trying to use to get in front of a human being, like circumventing some mechanical system or AI that's scanning a resume. And this takes me all the way back to my first jobs out of college or any job I've ever had. I don't want to say it's accidental, but so much was accomplished in the one-on-one interview. Someone they relate to you. They're like, well, you may not know exactly you may not know the equipment we're using right now, but I have a belief that you're going to learn it really quick and you're going to be a great employee. I mean, my frustration with this exact thing led me to start my own business out of freelance, because the job of walking up to a wall and banging on it till you're bloody in the forehead just to get attention or to get someone to say, hey, you're qualified, could drive you insane. As Tim noted, if you're mid-career and you've come on board and you came on board 10 or like say 2 or 3 decades ago when this wasn't going on, it's a world of pain.
Right.
I think and then there's the whole LinkedIn, Indeed, like all these sites are, we're going to, I don't know who gets hired from these sites, by the way. Have you ever met someone, Tim, who got a job through LinkedIn?
No, and I was going back to thinking, so many of the people that I ended up hiring when I used to hire a lot of people at Subaru were referrals. Mm-hmm. Some employee might not even be in the same department, but was referred from another employee. And I remember talking to a friend of mine from college when I went back to one of my reunions, and she was a very outgoing, gregarious woman. And we were talking about our first jobs or whatever, and she's same thing you did. She said, I went to this interview for this lighting company. And she said, she hit it off with the recruiter right away. They got along really well. And he says to her, he goes, I'm pretty sure you're not the smartest person I've talked to. He said, but there's something about you. I think you're going to do well. And she ends up becoming like, regional director of the company because he took a chance on her because he liked her personality, liked how their conversation and so much you can learn, right? You can teach process and teach operations or whatever, but there's so much about whether you think someone's going to be a good fit or not to the culture. I remember I hired somebody whose major in college was animal husbandry and somebody who majored in birdhouse architecture. Nothing to do with the auto industry, but I thought they'd be interesting people, and they were.
Yep.
And they both turned out to be great employees. One of them is still there.
So you actually, whenever we talk about this kind of thing, you remind me of something. It's hiring for character.
Yeah.
And, pre-election, Stanley McChrystal was talking about who he was going to vote for, and it's all in the past now, but he was talking about voting for character, and he said something specific that interested me. He said, it's not what you're capable of doing today. It's what your character how you will solve problems down the road. And I think these are perfect examples of someone impressing a hiring manager with their personality or their forthright or their outgoing, and they read that and they say, all right, you may not have exactly what we had on the job description, but I bet you're gonna learn really quick and be a great fit for the company. How does that happen if it's just a piece of paper with all these crappy keywords about what you did?
Right. No, and that's know him well, John Regini. That's how I hired John.
Yep.
John
Fantastic.
was on paper you would have never brought him in, but he had gotten a hold of the HR person, and she said, I really think you should speak with him. And she was right. I mean, he fit in perfect with the culture, and
Funny
he learned
guy.
what he needed to learn. Yeah, and
He's
so
the three-armed squirrel.
Yeah, the
If
squirrel
that
with
squirrel can get that nut with only one arm, I get that.
let him
nut.
have it.
John, we're referring to a story where we were at a event for Martina Navratilova in Manhattan, and Tim could not make it, but he sent John from his department, this guy we're talking about. And John his wife had a kitchen window that looked out on a garden that she did, and one day she sees this squirrel digging up bulbs, and he's having a cup of coffee, and he notices the squirrel only has one arm. And he says, God bless, if that squirrel can get those bulbs with that one arm, have him.
Let him have him. Have at it. Yeah. So it's tough out there, as we all know, and it's tough with even business prospecting. It's the same sort of thing. How do you get somebody's attention?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get somebody to notice you, or how do you have that human connection, which we seem to be missing? So the white fonting they're saying not to do. I guess you just have to include these keywords when you redo your resume, which everybody wants you to do an individual resume for each job, right?
Oh, Tim,
Tailor make.
you and I have spoken about this. Yeah.
Which is the same thing to me, right? If you're just regurgitating
So here's
what the job
the flip
description
side.
was.
My friend Alex's mom used to be in the nonprofit world, and one day she gave me advice about something along these lines, and she said, just apply, do a cover letter, and don't give it too much thought. So I don't even know how to balance that. Like I've struggled with that because, the cover letter is where you're supposed to shine, where you're supposed to show how enthusiastic you are about the position or the company, or you're bringing something to the table. And to have someone in the field probably correctly say, don't give it too much thought. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because they're really not read that much. The cover letter is not read as much as you think it was. People get a resume and they scan the bold job title, job title,
Yep.
job title. If I'm looking for a district manager and you were a district manager at a similar company, I assume you can do all the other things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
But of course, we'll give that advice, but here we sit. So thanks for joining us today here on the Focus Group. Be sure to find us at focusgroupradio.com. You'll also find our podcast there, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released on Tuesdays. And while you're there, you'll also see our partners, including Deep Discount, who's been a partner of ours here on the Focus Group for quite a while now. They've got a site-wide sale going on, which, as we noted, is a great time for you to start your holiday and Christmas and gift shopping season. I picked The Thin Man, which is an overlooked holiday film, supposedly. It came out in 1934. John picked The Invasion, and the new release this week is Beetlejuice. And so be sure to check all those out at our friends at Deep Discount. Holiday season coming up. We hope you all have a nice, happy Thanksgiving. Although we'll talk to you next week, which is right before Thanksgiving. But if you're leaving a little early, remember to pay attention to the road. Don't text and drive. Arrive alive. And we'll see you next time here on the Focus Group. Take care.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.